I would like to tell you about some facts. I want to emphasize that these are not all facts. These are just examples that testify to the misuse of Western weapons that were supplied to Ukraine. Now you will know where it goes now. In the course of briefings and our other speeches, we have repeatedly spoken about numerous evidences of misuse of weapons supplied by NATO countries to Ukraine. You remember, from the first weeks we warned that these supplies would spread, first of all, across the European continent. But no one is immune from falling victim to these weapons, which will be distributed on the black market. All this already has a systemic basis. These are not just private or isolated phenomena. This is already a global reality. Well, let's get down to the facts. On June 1, 2022, Interpol's Secretary General Jurgen Stock warned that after the end of the conflict in Ukraine, there is a high probability of intensifying the illegal trade in weapons originally intended for Kyiv. On July 1, 2022, the Russian news agency RT conducted an investigation and found out that an important element in the implementation of illegal transactions is the shadow segment of the Internet darknet. It is proposed to buy missiles for the Javelin anti-tank missile system for $30,000. They cost U.S. taxpayers $178,000. Missiles for the NLA anti-tank missile system for $15,000. Drones Kamikaze Switchblade 600 for $7,000. Small arms, grenades, body armor ranging from $1,000 to $4,000, including delivery within Ukraine. At the same time, the buyer and supplier often do not see each other. After the transfer of funds, the customer receives coordinates with the location of the desired weapons. Everything that darknet is famous for in other illegal areas. Now it all extends to the weapons that the West supplies to Ukraine. On July 21, 2022, the Office of the National Security and Defense Council and the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine announced the launch of an information and analytical system of the main situational center of the country in order to ensure transparency in the supply of Western weapons. I will say again, Ukraine itself, the Kyiv regime itself, half a year ago, tried to put under control the circulation of weapons that are supplied by the West to the territory of Ukraine. However, since the activation of the system, there is no information about the results of its work, because it's useless. On July 22, 2022, Europol spokesman Jan-Op Januart, in an interview with the German news agency DPA, spoke about the existence of an alarmingly high risk that weapons supplied to Ukraine would end up in the hands of organized crime groups and terrorists. According to him, many cases are already known when people left Ukraine with weapons. According to Europol, criminal networks in the region plan to smuggle large quantities of arms and ammunition, including heavy weapons, using existing supply routes and online platforms. Can you imagine? These are not melee weapons, but heavy weapons. This is not something that, one way or another, criminals have previously managed to hide from law enforcement. Heavy weapons now leave Ukrainian territory in unknown directions and then resurface. This is Interpol data. On August 4, 2022, the American television company CBS released a documentary Arming Ukraine. This investigation was not large-scale. It was devoted to the smuggling of weapons and the increasing cases of their appearance outside the territory of Ukraine. Volunteers who participated in the filming, military experts stated the following. Now attention. This is CBS. This is not a Russian media outlet. They claimed that 60 to 70% of Western aid never reaches the Ukrainian armed forces. Once again, 60 to 70% do not reach the military of Ukraine, but simply disappear. If we proceed from these figures, then reaching 30 to 40% are also subject to the same trends. Can you imagine what kind of parties and how many weapons that are spreading uncontrollably are we talking about? However, a few days later, what happened to this film? That's right. It was removed from the TV company's website without warning. The authors explain this by the need to update data on this topic. The defamatory Ukrainian military quote simply disappeared from the announcements of this film. It was expert data. Everything was cleaned up, including in social networks. On October 30th, 2022, in an interview with the local news agency IL, Commissioner of the Finnish Central Criminal Police Krister Oglarin said that weapons originally destined for Ukraine, including assault rifles, pistols, grenades and combat drones, were found in several European countries. Once again, we understand everything. We have repeatedly passed through customs when boarding one or another type of transport. We have seen announcements and warnings that cold weapons, pistols, and grenades cannot be transported. Yes, it happens. Some people are trying to somehow transport it. But combat drones, how is it? This is not easy to overlook. This cannot happen by accident. You cannot transport a combat drone in a suitcase. Not by plane. Not by train. Not by boat. No way. This should be a completely different level of the chain of delivery of these weapons outside the country of destination. The combat drone cannot be transported in a domestic way. At least that's how it used to be. Now I won't be surprised anymore. But it's the same logic. These are facts. So, according to him, I will quote once again the Commissioner of the Central Criminal Police of Finland. Finnish criminal groups are very interested. This is a quote. This is not my assessment. They are very interested in acquiring modern military systems, ammunition and weapons. He said that Ukrainian weapons have already appeared in the Netherlands, Denmark and Sweden. All these three states. Do you know how they commented on this data of their neighbor, Finland? No way. They simply refrained from commenting. On November 1st, 2022, an article in the Washington Post, citing anonymous sources in the U.S. State Department, noted that out of 22,000 units of weapons that require special control, only 10% were inspected. On November 17, 2022, the U.S. Congress announced the introduction of an audit system for all deliveries in financial tranches to Ukraine. As Republican lower house representative and co-sponsor Marjorie Taylor Greene explained, this is a quote, "The American people deserve to know where their hard-earned tax dollars are going for a non-NATO foreign nation." End of quote. I would say that this is no longer a question of money. It is a question of a completely different order. American and other taxpayers and citizens around the world have the right to know where and how much NATO weapons are spreading. On November 30th, 2022, The president of Nigeria, within the framework of the 16th Summit of Heads of State and Government of the Lake Chad Basin Commission, noted that the republic's authorities have already discovered weapons intended for Ukraine in the hands of extremists. This is Chad. It does not have a common border with Ukraine. But these weapons were intended for Ukraine. On December 15, 2022, an incident occurred with a grenade launcher explosion in the office of the commandant of the Polish police, Yaroslav Szymczyk, according to radio station Z. These weapons were brought to Warsaw from Kiev on a special train without border control. What is going on? On December 16, 2022, the British Prime Minister decided to audit the aid provided to Ukraine, as London wants to know what they have invested and what they have received from it. Well, I can advise him to watch our briefings. Then the UK can do without an audit. We will tell the Brits what they have invested and what they have received.